If you're anything like me, the last thing you want to do in the hours before parents' evening is prep all the figures and the stats that you want to provide your parents on your students. What I'm going to show you today is my solution to have those information ready at your fingertips with less than 2 to 3 minutes of prep time. And it's constantly updated, constantly live, ready for you to speak to any parent at any moment, including parents' evening, with absolutely zero extra additional work from you. Welcome to Notion for Teachers. My name's Andrew, and it's my mission to support you in building and maintaining your system in Notion to help you spend less time on the admin of teaching and more time on improving your craft and also making sure you've got some time for yourself to look after yourself. Okay, so what I'm going to show you today is how I've crafted my Notion dashboard for each class, and also a separate dashboard which shows me just the information that I want to see on parents' evening, in order that I'm able to produce that information for students with absolutely zero extra fuss. It's always there, it's always live, to the extent that even if I get a phone call today about a student, I can bring up this dashboard on my screen, I can speak to the parents or anyone else, other member of staff, on exactly what information they want to hear about on that dashboard. So what I'll show you now is how I've set that dashboard up in Notion so that you can do the same thing yourself. And what you'll see is how straightforward it is to set up, also just how useful it is to have that information at your fingertips at a moment's notice. So let's jump into Notion. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Okay, so when I enter a class, typically I'll go into my Google Calendar and I'll have the class linked in there that I'm teaching at that time. So here we have example class, I'll click on it, and there we have a link in the calendar invite on Google Calendar. Click that and that'll take me straight onto the Notion page for that class, okay? And I've got two sections here. I've got some information I've got in the background up at the top of that page. And that's just information there as the students that are in the class, for example. That's not really what I'm interested in today. What I'm really interested in is my today's lesson block here. So what I've got 5 sections in today's lesson block. So I've got a block here, which is a toggle here, which shows me sort of my recent lessons for that group, today's lesson for that group, and my next lessons for that group. So I can be like, oh yeah, what did we do last lesson? Where are we today? What are we doing next? Just so I bring myself into that flow. So there's the subtopics today, 14th of Jan in theory, and I'm teaching the first lesson in linear inequalities. If I did want to do a bit of retrieval practice at the start of the lesson, maybe I could bring in some of the probability that I was doing in the previous lesson. So it's all there, okay? Just continuing the overview. A few things that I want to remember every lesson. So I'm going to take the register. I want to award some merits to the students, and I want them to fill in their pink sheets. That's a nuance of my particular school, but you may have different things that you want to remember to do every lesson. Here I can tick those particular sections. I'll go through those shortly. Then I've got some in-lesson actions. So this is the action database, which I have linked in other parts of my system. This is my action track. This is my big global to-do list, but filtered only to show me particular actions that I need to remember to do in that lesson with the students in this group. Okay, so there's Hermione needs to submit some application, just an example task there. Discipline tracker, I have my late, record who's late, record who I needed to speak to at the end, and record equipment, there was any missing equipment from the lesson. And anything else, you could have other sections there for that. And then homeworks. Okay, so here's a homework that I've set the group. I've set it today. I've got a due date. Well, I need to update the due date, so that due date's maybe in 2 days time, something like that. And there I have a link to the homework, so I can quickly go and see the details of that, and that's the link to our homework sharing platform at my particular school. So there's the 5 sections. You'll have seen those in my class dashboard, the first video that I produced on the channel, which I'll link to at the top of the screen now. But the real bit thing I'm interested in here is in me preparing for parents' evening, okay? I want to prepare for parents' evening. And the kind of information I want to have available to me for parents' evening is like I'm going to have a list of the names. Obviously, I want to have a time that I'm seeing that student. And if a student, say for example, wants to change the time, okay, Ronald can only make it at 1900. I can create a 1900, and I can sort by those times. So I can create a sort by parents' evening time. And there they are, ascending in ascending order. I can type a few notes. So works hard in lessons. But the real beauty of this, and I could have entered any scores from tests. So this is pretty much my mark book for this group as well. The real beauty of Notion, okay, is that if we look at this area here, and I can see, right, how many times were we missing equipment? Well, there we have it, that Hermione was missing equipment once, and Hermione was late 3 times, and Hermione got 1 merit, or not Hermione, Harry got 1 merit, and Hermione was spoken to at the end once. But the real beauty is, where does that information come from, okay? So this is the information I want to have to hand on parents' evening, but where does that information come from, right? Well, if we go up to today's lesson dashboard and we come down to discipline, so we've maybe taught the lesson, we're at the end of the lesson, we're going to speak to a few people for one reason or another. Well, we can come in here and by just quickly typing EC, or if your class is 4A or 5D, you just type those two, and it brings up all the options for that group, or all the students in that class, right? And we can click, right, Seamus, I spoke to Seamus, and I also spoke to Ronald at the end of that class. So there they were spoken to twice at the end of the lesson. Now, typically this is going to be, if we're speaking to a student, it's not going to be a positive thing, so that's what I'm recording there. And for equipment, well, let's see, we spoke to Seamus and we spoke to Neville, and equipment was Ronald for that lesson, and late today was Neville and Parvati, and you see Lavender late. So I'm just populating that section just very quickly there, recording who was late, who I spoke to at the end, who was missing equipment, just so that you can see how this then very quickly populates into the parents' evening section. So here we said that on the 14th of January we added, so late was Neville, Parvati and Lavender. When we come down here and we look at Neville, late, there's Neville, that was recorded that Neville was late today. Clearly, if he's been late lots of times over the term, as Hermione clearly has, then we're looking for the higher figures because we know there's a bit more of a problem there, so we can raise that with the parents. Parvati and Lavender, both late as well, and that's just the power of Notion to manage to gather that data, and I'll just show you how that works because it's useful. So the late count, so here we have, right, then the parent says, right, well, what days was Lavender late on? Okay, so what we have here is a relation to the period by period planner, where, and these are the dates that Lavender was late in this case. So Lavender was late on the 14th. And if I also added, let's say, here's choose someone just so we can see this working. Choose Seamus. Seamus, currently not recorded as late on the 14th of Jan, but if I come up here and add Seamus to this, EC-Seamus, okay, so Seamus is added to that list. Now we see that actually Seamus is recorded into the stats here, late on the 14th of January. And we could even from this window, we've got the late count. So really, I'm probably most interested in the actual count, how many times was a student late, or how many times was a student missing equipment. So this is all super valuable. But if we also go in here and view the actual days, well then we know, so Seamus was late on the 14th of January, which was the day that we were teaching, we set the linear inequalities homework, and it's the day that we taught inequalities and linear inequalities, as was the lesson that day. Also, I spoke to Seamus and Ronald at the end of that lesson, so you can just see that way that Notion just gathers all that data into the same place. There's the PowerPoint that we used in lesson that day, that's the resource. So Seamus was late, I can very, very quickly send that PowerPoint to Seamus so he has the opportunity to catch up. I don't have to go hunting in all my folders, all my different files for that resource. It's all linked into that lesson because it's all because Notion pulls it all together using this relation function. It's super useful, it just pulls all the information into the right place, exactly where you want it. And it is incredible for this, and hence how I can be prepared for parents' evening in a matter of minutes. Just a quick review of this table. Okay, I can see who is late, what the merits count was, and the information is there at my fingertips just by very quickly adding it in during the lesson. Super valuable. Thank you very much, Notion, saving me lots of time every single day. Okay, so I hope that's a useful little run through. So what we saw there was that we have the class dashboard, which I'm going into every single day, and I'm updating that in lessons. It's got all the information I need to have at my fingertips in the lesson, including hyperlinks to all the key areas on the school website where I need to come out of Notion for a bit before I go back in. And then we've got the separate dashboard laid off to the side of that, which I can refer to on parents' evening or also any other time that I'm speaking to parents. And it's got all the key information I want to have to show the parents there right at my fingertips at a moment's notice at any time. So I hope that's been super useful. You've been watching Notion for Teachers. Please hit subscribe and the bell icon if I've been at all useful for you today, so you're catching my future videos when I'm posting. Aiming to post at least once a week. So I'll hopefully see you back here again really soon. Thanks a lot for watching. See you later.